Really, really good topic because it's about values, because values have a profound impact on our psychological well-being and overall life satisfaction. And I know that
Mhm.
sounds big, right? Big words, lots of stuff in there, but the truth is they are kind of a compass for how we live our life, and we all have values. The problem is some of us have not really identified the value.
Right.
And if we're not identifying the values, we can't really check in and live by our values. So then we're losing out on a lot of benefits that we
Yeah.
typically get from our values, because we all have them. So if you have not identified your values, listen to this one.
Stay.
Stay, because we gonna go talk about how you can identify your values and how it impacts so many areas of your life, and it makes you
Yeah.
so much
Why it's so
easier
important.
too, so much easier and so important. And so stick around to learn more how to identify them, or if you have identified them already, maybe you get a new perspective here with what we're talking about, because it is just such a fundamental component in life that even though I had identified values long time ago and then redid, because I'm a
Yeah.
coach. I'm Heike Fallon. I'm a certified high performance coach. I do self-leadership coaching, and values are a big component of self-leadership. We need to know what our values are, and they will guide us in everything. And Shannon is here with me.
Hello, Shannon Passalacqua. I am also a coach and I specialize in helping women heal after a miscarriage.
Yeah,
And
and
I
I
have
know
a
you.
Facebook community.
Yes, and you
Right.
said values is one of the
Hmm.
first things you really start with when we start coaching with
Yeah.
clients.
Well, and I think it's interesting. We've had this conversation, you and I separately, that um I never actually was interested in values. It was not anything that I really took note of up until I became a coach, and I didn't understand what the importance of values was. I didn't know, like, why do we need to talk about it? And I think it's really important to, when you identify your values and you know what's important to you, then you can live in alignment with that. And you can see, okay, well, what's pulling me away from my values? What in my schedule is pulling me away, what all of those things. And when you go through something really difficult, like the clients that I work with, the women I work with are going through grief, it's very easy to get disconnected to what's important to you and disconnected to your values. So one of the first things right away that I have my clients do is immediately start reconnecting with what's important to them.
Yeah, actually, you said one huge thing there already, because that's the part of the well-being really is about that feeling in alignment. Because let's
Hmm.
say, for example, if your value is family, because you have a family, you value family, but you work 70 to 80-hour job,
Right.
you're
Right.
you're not, and you start feeling that guilt and feeling stressed out about it, because you're, work is important too, no doubt
Hmm.
about it. But if your value is family, there is not that full alignment, not the amount of time you're actually spending to
Hmm.
really fully live into that value. And it feels
Right.
stressful, and it impacts your well-being, your health, but also,
Absolutely.
yeah, and on the other side, if we are really feeling aligned with our
Hmm.
values, because we're really behaving and making decisions in alignment with our values, yep, the big one again, dopamine release and other chemical release are happening, because
It's just
when we live,
dopamine.
yeah, there it is again. But when we're living in alignment, certain brain areas that are connected to the reward system are activated when we're having that feeling of living in alignment. And that contributes to our overall health and well-being,
Hmm.
feeling less stressed, feeling better about ourselves, and feeling also more in control, because
Yeah.
the brain does not like uncertainty, and we've seen that, obviously in the last years, when things are uncertain, the brain doesn't like that. If we don't know
Hmm.
what decision to make and what will come next, the brain does not like that. It does not feel good. But when we do know our values and we do know, okay, what are my choices and what lines up with my values, then the brain can better predict, then the brain starts feeling more in control, and that makes you feel better as well. So,
well, and you said something really important is when our brain can't predict what's going to happen, we feel out of alignment, and our body doesn't like that. And when we are in the middle, for me and for my clients, when we are in the middle of a miscarriage or going through that grief, and our whole world is turned upside down, and we don't know what's next. Our brain doesn't know what's next. So really honing in on, okay, these are the 2 to 3 things that I find very important, and this is what I'm going to concentrate on right now, is going to add some stability to your life. And it's going to help your brain, it's going to help your body. So I think that's really important that you mentioned that.
yeah, and so we already said it definitely influences our behavior. It definitely influences our decision making, because it makes it much easier if we're sticking to knowing what our values are. Making a decision in line with our values helps us definitely there. Relationships. It
Mm-hmm.
definitely impacts relationships. It builds also stronger connections, actually. People
Right.
that they've shown, and connection is super important for us human. That's something we all need. But when we are surrounding ourselves with people with similar values, there is usually a stronger connection. There's a feeling, the feeling of
Mm-hmm.
belonging, the feeling of trust, that feeling of really connecting on a deeper level because we share the same values. That is that helps all overall
Yeah.
relationships, and again with that also has an impact on our well-being and our health.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's, you know, I hate to keep bringing it back to miscarriages and grief, but that's what I know. Um, but there's a lot when you're going through something hard, there can be a split in a partnership. It can be very difficult to connect with your partner when you're going through a miscarriage because you may be grieving differently. So what I also suggest is when you recognize what your values are, also talk to your partner and maybe come up and sit down together and ask him or her what their values are, and then what are your values together as a partnership. What do we value together? What do we value separately? And then how do we bring that together? Because I think, my husband and I have done this in the past, and it's like, okay, if I know what his values are, I can connect better and I can support him. And when he knows what my values are, he can support me. And then if we know what our values are as a couple and as a partnership, then we can use that making any decisions in our life, right? Like, okay, well, what are we going to do with our money?
Yeah.
Well, if we value travel, then we're going to use the money to travel. If we value sports, whatever, then we're going to use the money to enroll our kids in sports or whatever it is. That's what we know. And when we were doing this and when we were on it, I think it really brought us together. And I think it's also important to note here to keep going back to what your values are because they
Yep.
change.
Yep. I just wanted to say, and also just because you've done that maybe 10 years ago
Yeah,
or 20
right.
years ago,
Or 3 years ago, do it again.
do it again. Because even though values are fairly stable, they do shift a little bit because life changes. So if let's
And
say,
this could be something you do at the beginning of the year or twice a year, quarterly, whatever.
yeah, just
Pick
to
a time in your calendar when you're going to reevaluate your values.
hopefully we all grow. Hopefully we all do self-development and move forward. And with that, sometimes certain values, they may not be completely different, but they may get the different values might get different importance, different priority
Right.
and in life. So
Right.
it's good to kind of recheck in and align again. I love it that you said that with the husband, but also in general, like with,
Yeah.
evaluating the people that you're hanging out with. Are
Yeah.
those,
Your friends.
your friends? Are they still on the same level on the values where you would like to?
Now, I'm not saying you sit down with your friends and have a glass of
Yeah.
wine and go, what are your values? All right, we're done.
Yeah, not saying that, not saying that, but you can in conversations uh figure out and find out
All
what
right.
their values are, and with their behaviors you see what their values are.
Yeah.
And it's an ever moving journey. It's not like a one-time thing and it's stuck, because we change and the value priorities might change a little bit. But let's talk about now how to identify them. Because
How?
yeah, how do you do that? Because you know, maybe somebody listening
I just
that's
pull them
not
from the air.
you just wait.
Yeah, let the values rain down on me.
Actually, there are a lot. So
Yeah.
so how do you start usually?
I actually do go on the internet. I work with a coach, and we wanted to identify what values were important in my business. And um I think we were looking for 3 to 5. And I think I came up with 3, and I'm like, gosh, I don't know. Like, integrity is really important to me. Connection is really important to me. And I was like, I don't I don't know what else. And I did. I ended up going on Google, and I did a Google search to look for words that would inspire me. And I just Googled, values, business values, and there's a whole list.
Yeah, no, so exactly. That's, I mean, I think one step before is usually taking a moment and write down, even right now while you're listening, write down what really makes you happy. Like just like what moments make you happy, what matters to you. So it might be coming up, you know what, spending time with my family makes me happy. Write down just a literally just brain dump, kind of writing down bunch of things that make you happy.
And notice, like, through your day, what's bringing you energy and what's draining your energy.
Yep.
And I think when you can identify what's bringing you energy, what's draining your energy, where your values, that's a good place to start. What you should kick out of your life and what you should add more of.
Yeah, so that's usually one question to two questions actually. So what makes you happy? What makes you unhappy? What makes you happy? And what gives you energy? What drains your energy? Another one too is to think of like, what am I really proud of? What did I accomplish?
Oh.
What am I proud of? Because that usually it's about finding patterns, right? It's not necessarily the individual things. Just dump them all down, and once you answered all these questions, see if there's certain patterns. And then after that, I do recommend go on Google. There's lists of like over 150
Oh my
values.
God, so many.
Literally, what I recommend is print them out, print the whole list out. And once you already have an idea of, what makes you happy, what gives you energy, drains your energy, what are you proud of, look at this list and start picking first. This I learned from somebody else, but pick like 30 out of those, just highlight them. When you have your 30, you're going to cut it down to 15. And when you have 15, you cut it down to 5.
Yeah.
So that you end up with 5. Now, the 30 is usually pretty okay. Down to 15 may work also okay. Down to the 5. That's when when
That's
you
hard.
really start thinking and see what, some overlap, in some ways.
Yeah.
So you got to see which words resonate with you, because the key part now is to know what you identify yourself with and with the word that you pick. Because if it's let's say, what are 2 words that are good to you? Connection
Integrity.
and yeah, well, yeah, integrity and professionalism, you know
Yeah.
it's kind of overlapping to a degree, right? Or
Okay. Yeah.
integrity and authenticity, what.
Right.
So you got to kind of see which ones are resonating with you, because at the end of the day, you want to take those 3 or 5. If you get it down to, I never got it down to 3.
Yeah, I actually I like 5.
So 5 5, if you know your 5, then really look, where are you really, you know, living into that, and where are maybe moments where, that didn't work out so well. I know it didn't make me feel, there was a, you know, event that happened and it didn't make me feel good. Hey, look at your values and see like, oh, maybe I didn't show up as my authentic
Right.
self. Maybe I
Well,
do a good job trying to connect or trust or whatever it be.
yeah.
And kind of, you know, reflect on a situation and see how you showed up, analyze a little bit your behavior. Don't beat yourself up. It's all about moving forward.
Right.
Just
Well,
take,
and I think what's important is daily, either in the morning or in the evening, connect with that. You know, if you write your 5 words, put them somewhere where you're going to see them, because you could identify them and then walk away and
yeah,
2 months later be like, I can't remember. Like, what were they again? Put them where you're going to see them, connect with them, you know, put them on your fridge, put them on your journal, put them on your mirror, whatever, and just connect. Like, did I do that today? How did I show up? How did I add that into my day? Okay, could I have done that better? Yes or no? And
yeah,
just, okay, what could I have done? It doesn't have to, it's just information,
yeah.
right? It's just information and data to help drive us to either get us out of our hard time or to help us just become a better version of ourselves.
Yeah, to reach really full potential at the end of the day,
Mhm.
right? If it's starting from grief or trauma, you know, to just kind of functioning again, but then
Yeah.
once there to even always, it's always about leveling up, but it's also, um when you feel, you know, that not in alignment or hard to
Mhm.
make a decision or something feels off. So that's why the self-awareness is very important, to recognize when you're not in alignment or when something just, you know, just doesn't sit right and you don't know
And
really
you can
what it is.
tell,
Yeah,
you
you
can
can tell.
tell you're a little sluggish, your
Yeah,
brain's not, you're like, oh, what's off?
you start recognizing certain feelings or certain behaviors, then it's when you kind of want to pull them up and look at them again
Hmm.
and go like, okay, so what's going on? Am I
Hmm.
really, like you said, living into these values, my 5 main values? Or you know what, maybe, yeah, there was this and this happening and I wasn't in alignment there, or, and that
Hmm.
usually gives us a good clue of what was going on and where do we need to make a change and change direction. That's why
Yeah.
they say values are a compass. It
Well,
helps
and it's,
to really
they
re
absolutely are.
and get you back on track.
Yeah, I have to say, like, this was one of the most important things I did after my miscarriages, because I had just I had I just lost myself. I completely lost myself. And when you go through that much loss, you do end up losing who you are. And you have to reevaluate, you know, because you're a new person now. And when I did this, it grounded me and really helped me. And I, even now, when I talk about my values and when I think about my values, I know, like, when I was thinking about the end of the year and I was like, you know, the last year has been a struggle with health issues. Um, but now that that's all been resolved, I can reconnect with my values. And I'm like, I knew I wasn't living in alignment. Like, I know I wasn't. I know what's important to me. You know, one of the things that is important to me now is growth and learning. And you know what I was doing during my learning time is I was scrolling.
Yeah.
And I think it's really easy to do that. But now when I look at it, I'm like, okay, this is what's pulling me away from what's important to me. Okay, so I'm going to have to add in new habits or go back to my old habits that worked before and start again.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm starting now. And it feels good to be back and living in alignment with your
Yeah.
values.
And that's a key thing that you said, like actually looking into what are my goals and lining that up with your values, that your goals
Mhm.
really align with your values. Then you setting it up already from the get-go in a better, on a better track.
Mhm.
But yeah, if we get really off, and like you said, though, it's hard when we are, when we're grieving, or when there's trauma, when there's health issues or other stress issues in life, whatever it be, to feel lost. And that's when pulling that out and lining up is super important. So
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I think these are great tools.
yeah, so if you haven't done it and didn't follow along yet, keep doing. go,
Yeah.
go
Read it.
identify your values, check it out. I know we've recorded lots of other Coffee with Coaches episodes, and
Mhm.
so check them out. They're all yeah, go
A
ahead.
good one, I would suggest that a good one after this would be to listen to our video about boundaries.
Ooh, yes, setting healthy boundaries. Yep,
Because
yep.
when you're evaluating your values and you know that you're not really living into them, there's probably boundary issues.
Yep, you're actually right. Yes. So go watch that. We'll have that link to this one at the end. So check out the healthy boundary episode that we did. We hope this was helpful. And I'm
I
gonna
found it helpful.
I found it helpful. I'm gonna be inspired again to kind of look at my values and recheck in with myself. And yeah, as always, coffee is coaches. Till the next time.
Bye.